As you all might know, my name is Muhammad Iftikhar, but I am popularly known as Dr. Iftikhar because of my medical graduation way back in late 1980s. Primarily, I am a medical graduate. Then, while doing my medical graduation, I had developed deep interest in a diversified range of subjects and topics, including media, including comparative study of religions, including literature, history, politics, government and politics, general knowledge, current affairs, and whatnot. So, well, with the grace of the Almighty, I became acquainted with so many subject areas. So I did sit for the examination of Masters in History in the Punjab University, and I also attended several workshops, diploma awarding activities regarding politics, history, literature, and I have been a very active member of the literary circle that used to decorate the famous Party House, which is a cultural hallmark of Lahore's history, Lahore's cultural landscape. It stands rather prominently. And then around 2001 or 2 onwards, I stepped into teaching this O&A level subjects. Though I have command and ability to read several subjects of both O&A level, for whatever odd reasons I got restricted to Pakistan studies and Islamiyat. Though I have taught psychology for A level, law at A level, sociology both in O&A level, and literature, especially Urdu literature and language, I can teach on what is called totally extempore basis. So these are my strengths, my weaknesses that I should have written much more than I have already. I have written literary reviews, critical reviews of a number of books on Urdu poetry, Urdu fiction, as well as my own subjects, Pakistan studies and Islamiyat, which are very popular throughout Pakistan as well as those countries where these subjects are taught. So, well, that was my introduction. Kind of, you can say, self-praise.
जी सर
So our issue,
Yes, please. बोलिए.
So our issue is that media uses elements such as sensationalism and misinformation in their news.
So we can't go up to the media and tell it to stop. So our target is the consumer of the news. We want to educate them on how to identify fake news through series of fact-checking methodologies and logical fallacies.
So we do already know what is fake news and the basic stuff, as we have done extensive research. So we'll dive straight into this. So we'll start with the first question. What is the impact of culture, region, religion, age, gender, and equality on handling of fake news?
Okay. The core issue in this question is the impact of culture and region mainly on news, fake news, information, disinformation, misinformation. Misinformation and disinformation are separate from very thin borderline that I would try to elaborate while talking to you people. You see, I prefer to use the phrase or the term cultural region that represents a whole unit where people following some particular cultural values inhabit. It is distinct from what we call generally geographical region. Geographical region has some other determining parameters, but this cultural region means a region where people follow a particular culture. And see, culture and regions, and we can say subunit of culture is religion. They first give tongue to media. And interestingly, then they gradually themselves become a kind of tongue and language of media. I'll try to fully elucidate my point. For example, you see slang, jargon. Slang is what we frankly speak, whatever vocabulary we frankly use, apart from what is called literary language. The slang for that, another word is colloquial. And jargon means technical language or language of a particular locality or language of a particular people engaged in some occupation and some profession. So slang and jargon of any cultural region are adopted by media first, and then they ride the media to intermingle with slangs of another cultural region. I hope you got my point, because maybe media provide them a kind of means of transport. If first it starts interacting with the local culture, local traditions, local region, local religious beliefs and customs and practices, and then it transports them. It's a kind of transplanting the same to alien cultural regions, cultural units, and so on. You see, the worst affected in this case would be, I think, more than culture, its subunit, that is religion. Living in a Muslim majority state and living, unfortunately, in an age of intolerance. So, in such circumstances, if fake news and unauthentic news, or maybe a deliberately unauthentic news, if it is spread with the intention of targeting the people following a particular sect of some religion, or people following some traditional cultural norms, so they might be affected adversely, especially the young minds. Young minds are more receptive, more adoptive. They accept values, they accept new ideas rather quickly as compared to mature minds. So media starts exploiting cultural values or cultural parameters in exerting its effect on the mindset of the people belonging to some particular culture. I'll give you one example, a very popular example. In local Punjabi, we are familiar with the common expression कि फलां के साथ हाथ कर गया, ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੱਥ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ. In Urdu, it was first kind of translated as कि फलां बंदे के साथ हाथ हो गया. Now you see, we have, for most of Pakistanis, English as a very popular second language. So gradually we translated the same into as something like उसके साथ हाथ hand हो गया. Instead of हाथ, we start using hand हो गया. अब वो hand हो गया gradually, once it, after its transcontinental journey, it reaches language speaking zone, then they might be taken aback, first of all, but eventually they might be amused by the spirit contained in this. This is the pleasant side. This is the acceptable side of the story. The other side I have shared with you, that is rather dangerous. It's a kind of two-edged sword that may have benefit, that may have disadvantages. So it's media that made us familiar with many Indian slangs recently. You see, we have access to YouTube, we have access to the internet. Not all people would like to go to cinema to actually physically watch the movie and follow what is called the cinema culture. Because cinema culture traditionally has been on decline in Pakistan over the last couple of decades. Only recently we can see, or we have witnessed episodes of resurgence, resurrection of Pakistani cinema culture. So it's, you see, it's media that made us familiar with several Indian day-to-day sayings, which in Urdu grammar it is called Rozmarra ki Zuban. The media gets influenced by the local cultural traditions or units, and any culture influencing media can also be seen as a common example. Same with local campaign may be another good example for that. Social media पे हम देखते हैं कि that such and such group of people, they are engaged in promoting their agenda, their viewpoint, their program with noble intention, with maybe without any aim, or with maybe evil intentions. Got it? I hope I've clarified everything.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So our next question to you is, how
Chaliye.
critical would you say is the impact of media on society?
Media and society, that is, I think, the crux of the matter. It's the nucleus of this sitting, this conversation, and revolves around this. Therefore, I personally view media as a kind of trendsetter. And see, trendsetter is something of milder degree. Okay, media starts introducing new trends in fashion, trends in designing, trends in architecture, trends in even thinking process. But I see a little beyond that. For me, media may gradually become norm setter. Now, trend setter is something, as I earlier said, a milder term, whereas norm setter may be a heavier one. It may have more deeply pervading or penetrating effects. How media starts encroaching upon social norms and values. And the man, or maybe the men, or humans behind the media gun may strongly influence fashion, traditions, thinking process, thinking skills. Even people may start looking at their civilizational cultural background in a different way, unknowingly, unintentionally. This is how media may become a very, very effective tool. It may be effective in the sense that it may assume the dangerous proportions or it may remain rather harmless. But we need to keep in mind that whenever we discuss media, whenever we talk about media, we need to remember that humans are practically used as experimental animals, experimental tools by the media. There's no denying the fact. First, you see media start testing some newly introduced dress style, shoes, food, food pattern, then politics, which is very popular topic of discussion in Pakistan, maybe in South Asia. So politics has traditionally been used for supporting or resisting any political cause or party or views. You see, this is how media has been used. Politics has used media. Politicians have used, political workers have used, they have been using media to propagate their party program, to propagate their agenda, their what is called manifesto, party manifesto. And while doing the same, they are resisting, they are opposing the party or the views they do not agree with. Similarly, media first of all questions political views or trends, and then it, in a very, very clever and imperceptible way, starts shaping new views, new trends, new political inclinations. So this is how maybe media may be taken as a kind of non-human party worker. And finally, it might become non-human party leader. I think this is the best way to sum it up, to answer your question in a summed up way. Okay, got it, I think.
Okay, so our next question to you is that technological development has also enabled anyone to mass communicate false info. Does this trouble you, and what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you see, 21st century, rather I should say, last quarter of 20th century, or maybe at least last decade of 20th century, and the onward years of 21st century, they all may be labeled as an age of technology. The way I have witnessed technological advancement at a rapid, surprisingly rapid pace, that I can remember very well my childhood, my youth years. I'd never seen such a rapid pace of advancement, such a rapid pace of change, both constructive changes, destructive changes around me while interacting with the people. So technology is the name of the game. Indeed, it is the name of the game. It is, for me, it's the most powerful game changer of the contemporary world. Technology affects our mind. It affects our thought process in a multitude of ways. The first impact is the awe of a technology. You see, we are awed by the charm of a technology whenever we are introduced to a new gadget, to a new device, any electronic device. I mean, I'm just referring to, taken for granted, electronic advancement, electronic technology. So first impact is that of awe. We are inspired. We are taken aback. We are taken away whenever we are shown some new technological device. As a result of this, the younger and raw minds usually start planning its uses in novel ways. You see, humans are thinking machines. Humans are creative animals. They are innovative animals. Therefore, the younger minds, I mean, they might possibly start thinking about the misuse of the same, keeping in mind the absence of any check on the activities of the younger generation, because they don't like parental influence, they don't like parental interference beyond a certain limit. So therefore, there is every possibility they might start thinking about misusing the technology. Technology can, therefore, we can say it can be proven to be a constructive as well as a destructive tool in the hands of modern humans. We are living in time where people in general are excited in spreading information without bothering to conduct any investigation. That in itself is breeding a culture of misinformation and disinformation that the terms I used right in the beginning of this discussion. Misinformation may be taken as a kind of imperfect information or an undeliberately twisted information. And disinformation is deliberately twisted information. We can say that it's a kind of corrupted information. It's a kind of pervert information. Okay, when we give a shape, or rather we should say when we de-shape any information, it may be called disinformation, and that becomes definitely dangerous. Because you see, looking back to the years of World War II, from 1939 to 1945, Hitler is reported to have used whatever technology at that time was available as a weapon. Fake radio channels were set up which used to broadcast news, information, and views, pretending to be belonging to the Allies, that means Great Britain and its allies, though in reality they were all Germans. So they had started working on this use of technology in spreading misinformation, disinformation, right? More than half a century ago, 3/4 of a century indeed. So technological advancement, as goes with every invention has uses, every invention has misuses. The same happens when technology is used for spreading propaganda and spreading fake information. It definitely disturbs mature minds, I must say. Mature minds look at these things, these trends, these change patterns rather differently, because they're not that excited about things. Because right today I was sent by some of my friends the latest breaking news of the day: the artificial woman manufactured by the Chinese. You see, it affected my mind differently, and it would affect the minds of younger people rather differently. I'll try to share the same with you people. I think as far as that post mentioned, its name is going to be something like Huri, perhaps the English version of the Arabic word Hur, the promised beautiful women in paradise, as per Muslim belief. So this is how we view technology, our technological advancement, technology and media. So we may proceed with next question, please.
Well expressed. As we all know that in modern times, news can be spread through multiple means. Do you think this diversity of medium is more beneficial than it is harmful?
Okay, it's also a very pertinent, very important question. You see, diversity. Diversity is, first of all, we need to know as charm of this universe. Diversity is the most beautiful aspect of the world that we live in. We have diversity of humans, and therefore we have diversity of minds, diversity of thinking skills, diversity of thinking patterns, diversity of inventions, diversity of discoveries, and diversity of interaction, diversity of cultures. So when it comes to diversity of media, again, we need to be prepared with the hard fact that it has both benefits and problems, popularly called advantages and disadvantages. So you see, as far as its beneficial effects are concerned, think what happens with an ever-changing media undergoing diverse range of changes. So first of all, we are motivated to use newer channels of information. We feel encouraged that if it is one way of expression, it's another way of expression. Third one is another way of expression. Why not we try to invent another way of expression? That means another media device, another channel of media, another channel of expression. The way you see, you study in various subjects, sectors of economy, in economics, environmental management, environment of Pakistan. Sectors of economy used to be primary, secondary, and tertiary, and recently a quaternary sector has been introduced. That's innovation. That to diversify the sectors. So diversification is aimed basically at making things easier for us. We can comfortably classify them by discovering a new branch of knowledge, a new branch of specialty, or a new branch of media. So first impact is that of motivation, which is something really good. We need motivation, we need inspiration, we need to be moved, we need to break monotony. It's something good. Social media came. Before social media, we had variety of TV channels. Before that, we had only state-controlled media, as happens in most of the third world countries, underdeveloped economies. And before that, we had radio. So you see, look at this evolutionary pattern. And who knows what might be more shocking, more disturbing, or maybe more surprising and more alarming than social media. Nobody knows. We can't say anything with certainty that tomorrow we might be having another kind of social media. Therefore, we can now turn towards its drawbacks or problems. The most undesirable is the cutthroat competition trend. You see, there's this kind of mad race among various innovators, various owners of media channels, as well as those engaged in social media, to make their product more presentable. Product means their means of social media. So journalism or media has traveled across all these changes over time. This cutthroat competition may have some serious disadvantages. For example, it may lead to the end or death of XYZ device. And the owner or those engaged in this business may be affected drastically in terms of their economic losses. That in turn may have some psychological impact. They might be victim of depression, might be victim of ever existing, ever prolonging stress. So that may be discouraged because it is all these undesirable effects are translated. They're bound to reach the users as well. So these various media bodies competing with each other rather madly may set wrong trends, undesirable trends, if not wrong trends. But we should remember that competition is another beautiful aspect of our living, our social values, our cultural norms. Without competition, again, there will be monotony, and monotony needs to be broken. But anyway, when it comes to diversity, when it comes to introducing a new kind of media, we should remember that there might be undesirable social forces behind it that we need to be alert about their not so pleasant mission, maybe evil missions. So they may be driven by evil forces, and that may not be good for any generation, for any society, for any culture. Okay, what's the next question, please?
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, let's say that Federal Communications Commission introduces a new law regarding this power that you're talking about of free communication, and it might limit it or give it more freedom. How may this affect private industries, global trade, or even capitalism?
Well, I think any kind of regulatory authority is usually not welcomed by the private sector. And it may be seen, it is seen by many as a hindering factor regarding globalization, free market economy, and free interaction as well as free expression. But we all know that there is always need for a regulatory body. We always need some kind of code of conduct to be followed, whether it is media or other walks of life. We need some regulatory body. But again, you see, things are becoming more and more complicated with the passage of time. Regulatory bodies are also looked with suspicion by many people because they think in the guise of regulatory body, in fact, it's a kind of what is called media gagging campaign. Media's mouth is gagged. Media's wings are clipped. Therefore, introducing a regulatory mechanism, a regulatory body also needs a lot of homework. We need to conduct some research on it, and we need to go for what is called random sampling. We need to seek opinion of various segments of society, both in terms of age and sex, as well as in terms of literacy rate, in terms of level of awareness. So before we embark on such a mission of introducing some authority, regulating the working of media bodies, we have to do what is called in popular language. We need to go across the board. We need to involve all segments of society, all segments of community before introducing any such law. Because you see, when we look at the chance of misuse of such a body, so in that case, we should be ready for a new debate regarding the utility or otherwise of any such body or code of conduct. So I think it will have free communication should not be restricted beyond certain limit. We may, for example, introduce some mechanism regarding the language to be used on in the name of free expression. Freedom of expression does not mean that we become abusive, we become insulting, or we become totally intolerant and ignorant of others' views. For that, I think we need a kind of training, especially the people belonging to the underdeveloped countries. They need some training. They need to be familiar with what I repeatedly use the term evolution. They need to be made familiar with the culture of evolution, the process of evolution, an evolutionary process to be made familiar to these people, so that they realize that over the ages, how things have been affected by humans and how humans have affected things, or how humans have been affected by things. That means the kind of interaction between media and humans. That would be a good way, good strategy, while introducing any regulatory code of conduct on freedom of expression. Because I'm just reading these days a wonderful book written by Francis Fukuyama. There he has discussed the emergence and evolution of political process, and then surprisingly talking about its own decay, political decays. Another interesting topic, how the political processes that evolve, they tend to decay because of their own rigidly designed frame. So same way, if we make a kind of rigid framework, rigid design around open expression, freedom of expression, it might be counterproductive. So we need to be very thorough while discussing this issue or while making any regulatory lines, any regulatory norms about the freedom of expression. Because for me, freedom of expression is very, very important, and it cannot be undermined, especially in a country which is experiencing intellectual evolution, political evolution, social evolution. Okay, that was the whole answer. We may go on to next question, please.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, at the end, anything you like to say else? Something inspiring we could at the ending of our video.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Maybe I need a kind of thesis to write about that, because I have so many ideas that I keep working day in and day out. First of all, you see, I must admire the emergence of social media, because I'm witness to its emergence, how it originated, how it had to do sort of struggle before being recognized, and then how it's began to spread its tentacles across the globe. Globalization and social media, I think they have been running, maybe jogging, or maybe strolling hand in hand. So emergence of social media has been working parallel to electronic and print media. You see, evolution is that something oral, then something written. That means that led us to print media, and then something both auditory and visual that took us to electronic media, that is radio, TV, and then the use of computer technology, and finally the smartphones, etc. So we need to strike a balance between all these types of media. Instead, you see, I would like to encourage the younger members of my community to give time and preference to writing. Though apparently, as many poets, many writers believe that the art of writing might not survive against this digitalization campaign, world has been experiencing over the last couple of decades. But you see, the written word has a much longer lasting impact. We cannot deny it. This emergence of digital technology does not mean that writing will be totally eliminated. It will survive. And as compared to, you see, digitalization or maybe oral tradition, this writing tradition definitely has a greater audience, greater number of people whom it addresses. And it is guaranteed to survive. However, by no means I mean it's an advice to abandon or drastically restrict the use of other forms of media. I mean, striking a balance between all types of media. And moreover, we should never underestimate the role of investigative journalism and research activity. You see, research keeps us alive. Research pushes us forward. Research shows us the new ways, the new horizons, the new ladders of progress, the new ways of evolution. So my best advice, the most sincere advice is that you should be investigative, you should be research oriented, you should be creative, man, you should be analytical, and you should do everything in writing. Do plan to write a book and begin with article writing, essay writing, short essays, then a bit longer, and so on. So I have all best wishes for you. And again, thank you for inviting me for such a wonderful dialogue. And I'm really impressed by the quality of your answers, the content, and the style of asking me. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your unique perspective and thank you for
Thank you.
your precious time. Your thoughts
Thank
and
you very
ideas will definitely boost our project.
All the best. Yes, I'm sure they will.